Hey guys, and welcome on into the next NHL season preview show. And today we're going to be talking all about the Edmonton Oilers, looking at their additions and subtractions, upcoming free agents, possible lineup for opening night, player future bets, and team future bets for the upcoming season. And to do that, I brought in Matt at Bridge City Bets. If you missed him, he was in the Detroit Red Wings season preview show. Matt, I won't get you to introduce yourself again because you already did. But thanks for joining me again, and let's jump into it here because we've got two pretty big lists to start off the show here: additions and subtractions. Of course, the Edmonton Oilers having a general manager change, and when that type of thing happens, usually you do see a lot of movement. Usually, we usually see kind of a waiting period, but not really for the Oilers. They kind of did a lot here, so I'll start. I'm not going to go over every guy. I'll try to group them together. Jack Campbell buyout. I guess a lot of people could see that coming. He gets bought out by the Oilers. You've got depth guys below that. Warren Fogle leaving, I think, really hurts. Then the Ryan McLeod trade to get Matthew Savoy, which kind of surprised people. Um, some other prospect trades in here. Uh, Cody Cece goes out. And then the big thing in the offseason was the offer sheets by the St. Louis Blues, um, getting both Dylan Holloway and Philip Broberg, as the Oilers did not match either of those offer sheets. So the Oilers lost quite a few young players in Broberg and Holloway, Xavier Bourgault, Ryan McLeod. They lost some young guys here. And then we look at the additions. Connor Carrick coming in here on D. Colin Delia should really never be on the Oilers roster this year. If he is, then that means there's some kind of disastrous injuries with the goaltending. Jeff Skinner comes over from Buffalo um, to just add to this already strong offensive group. Connor Brown, Victor Arvidsson, more offense. Josh Brown on defense. And then you've got the other guys here in trades. Vasily Bokolzin coming in over from Vancouver. Ty Eberson as well. So you've got some younger guys coming in. Mike Hoffman, Travis Dermott, both on tryouts. So we'll see if they get some sort of deal or not. Um, Looking at these two lists and kind of saying if they got better or worse is kind of difficult because there's a lot of pieces here. But the main core is the same for the Oilers. I think when you look at the guys that they brought in here for the short term, uh, losing McLeod hurts, losing Fogle hurts, but you're bringing in Jeff Skinner and Victor Arvidsson, and that's a step up. So overall, I think the Oilers got better in this offseason, at least for the short term. Matt, additions and subtractions, a ton here. What do you think about what the Oilers did in the offseason?
Yeah, I think with all these additions and subtractions, it's kind of a wash. I don't know if they really got any better. Not that be kind of hard for them to get better, being one win away from the cup last year. Yeah, Jack Campbell touched on him a bit with the Detroit episode. Edmonton probably won't be missing him all that much. Holloway and Broberg. I don't think Edmonton was ever going to match what St. Louis paid for them, given that Dreisaitl's extension, and we'll talk about it later, but Bouchard has an extension coming up, and McDavid's eligible as well next offseason. So I think St. Louis overpaid for those two guys. bringing in Emberson from San Jose. He spent 3 years in college and then another 3 in the AHL. He's a good size for a defenseman, and he's played against top talent in his development. Guys like Caulfield, Zegras, and anybody else in that USHL that he's been through. Doesn't do a lot of power play, but we should see him on the penalty kill role in replacement of CC or Desharnais. Skinner and Arvidsson both brought in on pretty good contracts, 3 and 4 million each. Skinner saw a dip in production last year. Where was it? I think his points were cut in half, basically, from 82 to 46 last season with Buffalo. He's not strong defensively, but in this lineup, his offense should cover up those deficiencies. He's not usually a playmaker. He likes to get to a spot, have the play come to him. And now that he's not in Buffalo, with all the talent the Oilers have, he's not going to be burdened with being, the main guy in this offense. And then with Arvidsson, I actually like Arvidsson a lot this year. Was injured last year with the Kings, only played 18 games, but had 15 points in those 18. And he's 1 year removed from a 59-point season. So getting him into this lineup is going to just be ridiculous for the depth of these forwards. He's more well-rounded than Skinner. He can create quality scoring chances. He's good neutral zone puck carrier. And he's better defensively than Skinner. It should be a good pairing to have those two. And then with Savoy, offensive center, puck handler, he's got the speed. Grew up pretty close to the Edmonton area, St. Albert. And he had 47 points with Moose Jaw in 23 games last year in the WHL. Another 24 points and 11 with Wenatchee. And 5 points in 6 games in the AHL last year. So he's got high upside, and his outlook is reasonably optimistic. If he can hit the ground running, it gives the Oilers a deep and flexible top 9. But we'll touch on that when we get to the lineup segment there.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I agree. Maybe slightly improved, but it is hard to tell with all these moving pieces whether they really improved that much in the offseason. And of course, a huge list of players coming in and out. And then when you look at this offseason, there's only 6 names here, upcoming free agents. Of course, if they do sign a couple guys to tryouts, then they probably have a couple more names on here. But Matt, we'll start with you for this list. Not a big list. Who are the main guys do you think that the Oilers should re-sign in the offseason?
Well, the big one is obviously Bouchard being an RFA. He's going to see a huge increase in pay. McDavid's also eligible for an extension next offseason, so the salary cap might be an issue for the Oilers going forward. It depends how you break down those 2 contracts. But yeah, Bouchard for sure is an auto sign. Like anything whatever you can throw at him, you get that one done. Skinner, if he has a good year, I could see them potentially bringing him back. But Ryan, Brown, Perry, I think all three of those guys are pretty replaceable there.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree. Of course, we're not going to have much disagreement here. Bouchard needs to get re-signed. Maybe Edmonton's able to convince somebody to take Darnell Nurse,
That would
and
be a
there
very
could be
big help
some
for them.
kind of, I don't know who in their right mind would want to
Yeah.
do that, but maybe there's a team out there that that deal can get done and free up some cap space. But really, the guys on the forward list, I don't really see Jeff Skinner re-signing, especially if he does have a good season. I think he's going to want a payday. He's probably going to want a bit of a longer term somewhere else.
Right.
Um, I just have this gut feeling like maybe we see him in Vegas. I don't know why, but the other UFAs there, like you said, replaceable. If they do resign, probably cheap short-term deals. So um, the one that's going to break the bank, of course, is Bouchard. Emerson, we'll see how he fits here in Edmonton. Possible lineup. So Evander Kane, from what we've heard, is going to be out for the entire regular season, but it's possible come playoffs that maybe he can make his debut sometime in the playoffs, which would be a huge addition to the Oilers on a playoff run. Looking at this lineup here, of course, it's just a possible lineup. Forward group, I'm not going to go over each player, of course, but that top line is dangerous. The second line, dangerous. Just as dangerous as, well, maybe not as dangerous as the top line. You got McDavid on the top line, but Draisaitl, Jeff Skinner, and Victor Arvidsson could be a top line on a lot of other teams in the NHL. Um, maybe not Tampa Bay, but I'm trying to think of some teams that maybe have a better top line than Skinner, Draisaitl, and Arvidsson. But if Victor Arvidsson is healthy, that is an extremely dangerous top six. Then you've got Adam Henrique, Matthias Yamak, and Connor Brown on the third line. Those guys are going to have opportunities because the best defensive lines and defenseman pairs are going to be focused on those top two lines. So I think that third line is going to get some opportunity. And that fourth line, Vasily Bakolzin, if he lands there, maybe he gets to be on the third line. The fourth line has some potential as well. Mike Hoffman is on the tryout. Maybe he gets signed. You have him on the fourth line. He's an offensive guy. Of course, production coming down, but joining this Oilers lineup would be dangerous even more. The defense, Matthias Ekholm and Evan Bouchard is a great top D pair. And then you go below that. And that's where we've got all teams have potential weaknesses or question marks. And the bottom two lines for me are two D pairs for me are the question marks with this Oilers team. But they've got some other guys in depth with Josh Brown and Travis Dermott on a tryout. So if he gets signed, there are some other guys here that could step in if some of these other guys struggle for the Oilers defense. And then goaltending, Stuart Skinner was pretty good for the most part last year. Calvin Pickard, I think, outperformed what a lot of people had expected for him as well. So the Oilers usually goaltending year after year after year is an issue. And I'm not going to say it's not an issue, but I think there's a little bit less question marks with the goaltending uh, this year, I think, in my opinion, than the bottom of the defense. But that forward group is the best in the NHL. So, Matt, possible lineup for the Oilers. What do you think of this group of players here?
Yeah, I think a lot of people want to see McDavid and Draisaitl paired together, but I think keeping them apart, at least off the power play, it ensures you got the best player on the ice for 40 plus minutes a game on any given night. Yeah, McDavid, Draisaitl, there's really not much to talk about there. Everybody knows just how good they are. The second line, I really like that combination. All three of those guys can carry the puck into the zone. It's going to give the Oilers a multi-dimensional attack coming into that offensive zone. Should set up, like if Skinner's coming in, it'll set up Draisaitl. If Arvidsson's coming in, it'll set up Skinner. I could see Arvidsson dropping down in the third line some nights to pair with Henrique. If Savoy can come in and make an impact here early. The fourth line, not a huge fan of that. Never been a fan of Corey Perry, so I don't think he'll be an everyday player. So it'll be interesting to see if Mike Hoffman makes the team out of camp here, see where he slots in. Going to the defense, Ekholm Bouchard's a strong pairing. Nurse, I would almost pair with Stetcher instead of Emerson, just because I feel like Nurse and Emerson are too similar in their play styles. And then Skinner should be, well, he will be the starter. He'll play the majority of the games. He had a good year last year, but I feel like he also had streaks of not so good play. Saw it a bit in the playoffs there, where he'd lose at the first couple games of the series and Edmonton had to claw back. We saw it in the finals. As much as everybody wants to talk about Edmonton being one win away from the cup, they were also one win or one loss away from getting swept. So, yeah, Skinner should hopefully be more consistent this year. But outside of that, Kane being out until the playoffs potentially. If not, at least like till February for sure. Definitely hurts their forward line, but they're just so deep that it almost doesn't even really make that much of a difference up front.
Yeah, it'll be a nice addition when he comes back. And I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of hold him out until the playoffs. Potentially add somebody else if they can at the trade deadline. Do some wheeling and dealing to circumvent the cap, which we've seen teams, Tampa Bay, Vegas, do in the past. Vegas multiple times. They've been kind of famous now for that with NHL fans. So we'll see if the Oilers do the same here. Team future bets. The Edmonton Oilers are the favorites to win the Stanley Cup at plus 800. They are the sportsbook's favorites. And you can see that price with win conference and President's Trophy as well. Win division, the Oilers are minus 105. They're the only team in the NHL that is not plus money to win their division. I don't have interest in the top four bets. And it's not that I don't think the Oilers can win the Stanley Cup. They definitely could with this lineup. It's the price. I don't think there's much value here with these bets. I think if the Oilers do struggle throughout the season and then we can get a better price, then maybe I would look at it at that point. Win division, I do think they win the division. I do. I really do think so. but I'm not going to bet it at minus 105 because injuries do happen, slow starts happen. A lot of changes here. Maybe some of the chemistry doesn't work right. There is things that could happen here. Make playoffs minus 1400. Can't really do too much with that. So then we get to the point total here at 108.5, which is pretty high here. Just let me bring up what the Oilers had last year, which was 104. They came in second in the Pacific Division. I couldn't take the over. And it's not because I don't think that they could get there. It's possible that they get there, but again, there's just not a lot of value. Everyone's expecting the Oilers to go up, and some of the teams in the Pacific are going to go down a little bit, but the teams in the Central improved. So this Oilers team, when it comes to team future bets, I just don't really have anything here. And it's not because they're going to be a bad team. It's just that there's not a lot of value here. Even 110 plus points is minus 105. So Stanley Cup at plus 800 is the only thing on this list that you could potentially look at, but that's something I would look at during the season. Matt, team future bets for the Oilers. What do you think here?
Yeah, I think we're pretty much in agreement there. It's a tough road to get back to the Stanley Cup. Doesn't matter how good you were the year before, and with as much turnover as they've had, it's going to make it that much more difficult. Win division again. I'd like to see plus money there, but they finished second each of the last 3 seasons. So I get having it minus 105. Yeah, there's just not too much value on any of those lines, especially if knock on wood, Draisaitl or McDavid get injured at some point this season, then all of these prices are just going to be shot to hell.
And actually, if one of those guys or both of those guys were to get injured, that might be the time to actually bet the futures if they're going to be coming back.
Yeah.
Because you might actually get a much better price once those guys goes out if the Oilers start losing some games. So that might be a possibility in season. Again, that's why I would look at these bets more in season for the Oilers. Now we've got player future bets and then we've got player awards here. So this obviously because the Oilers have so much scoring depth, there is a whole bunch of different bets here to bet on. McDavid, 48.5 goals. He had 32 last year, 64 the season prior. The season prior was the only time he has went past 44 in his career. So 22-23, he had 64 goals, but every other season before that, he's in the 30s or 40s. Other than his first year when he only played 45 games, he had 16. But basically, he is in the 30s and early 40s, except for that 64 goal season in 22-23. Point total, he had 132 last year, 153 the season before that, 123 the season before that, and all the other season early hundreds. 132.5 points is a lot for a player future bet. You need him to stay. And I know I mentioned this on every show about players staying healthy, but if you're betting 132.5 points, McDavid only had 132 last year. And if you had a point total for 132.5 with McDavid, and you bet it the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years, you've only cashed once. in the 153-point season. So 132 points is a lot to ask out of a player. So no bet there for me. I'm not saying he can't do it, and it wouldn't shock me if he does, but putting my money on it is a different question. Leon Draisaitl getting signed, so he will not be an upcoming free agent at the end of the year. He signed early, so that is all done. No worries about his future with the team. His goal totals at 49 and a half. He only had 41 last year, but the two previous years he had 50. And he's played at least 80 games in 3 seasons in a row. And when you look at it, Draisaitl's been very healthy throughout his career. 72 games in his first season, 82, 78, 82, 71 in 2019, 2020, 56 in the short season 2020-21, and then, as I said, 80 at least in the last 3 years. So he has been a healthy player. Point totals at 110, only at 106 last year. 128 the season before that, 110 the season before that. So again, kind of like McDavid, I can see Draisaitl hitting these overs, but these are very high numbers, a little bit too high for me to bet on it. Evan Bouchard, he had 18 goals last year, so 17 and a half. The previous 2 seasons, he had 8 and 12. All 3 seasons playing at least 81 games. So he's been a healthy player. He's only hit that goal total once. Point total is at 84 and a half. He had 82 last year, 40 the season before that, 43 the season before that. If I was going to bet something with Bouchard, it would be the point total over 84 and a half. I think with a stacked Oilers team that's going to have extremely strong offense and a very nasty penalty kill, the top and the second pair are going to be pretty dangerous. So I can see Bouchard racking up a ton of power play points. So 84 and a half, not something I'm going to be pulling the trigger on, but something I would lean with there. Jeff Skinner, as Matt said, Jeff Skinner had a bad year last year, but a lot of Buffalo Sabres players had a bad year last year. The year before, they were really trying to make the playoffs. It looked like they might, and then they didn't, and continued that playoff drought. And it looked like last year, like the players gave it all they had the year before and just didn't have anything left in the tank last year. All the players, most of the players in the team took steps back. So now he comes over here to Edmonton. The previous 2 seasons before that, he had 35, 34 goals. Last year, only 24. So I can see Skinner's goal total going up here. Point total at 64 and a half, 46 last year, 82 the season before that, 63 the season before that. Zach Hyman, goal total last year at 54, which was the best year of his career by far. 36 the year prior, 27 the year before that. So a career year, and now his goal totals at 43 and a half. So the books are expecting him to take a step back a little bit with the goal scoring here. Point total 74 and a half, 77 last year, 83 the season before that. And Hyman is a goal scorer. So, but having said that, when I'm looking at these two numbers, I kind of almost want to take the point total instead. And I know that sounds crazy with Hyman being a goal scorer, but again, I can see him racking up assists here for even when he doesn't score. I can see him racking up assists and points. So goal total at 43 and a half is high. Yes, he had 54 last year, but the best he had done previous to that was 36 the year before. So 43 and a half is a lot for a player to get. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, 82 and a half points, 67 last year, 104 the season before that. Where is Nugent-Hopkins playing? If he is going to be on that top line, then I want his point total over. If he's not going to be on that top line, that second line is still very dangerous. So uh, it's not like it would be a huge drop off. But he only had 67 points last year. So for me, a pass there. I hate to pass with everything, but these kind of bets, I'm kind of telling you my leans on where I would go. But again, a lot of these totals are very high, being with how strong the Oilers' offense is. Matt, you don't have to go through everyone, but is there any of these that catch your eye on this list?
Yeah, like you said, a lot of the totals here are insanely high. McDavid 132 and a half. It's almost expected out of him, but I I don't know if I could get there on the over. Um, Skinner goals, do think he gets 30. Maybe even 30, 35 this season. So I would be thinking about over on his goals. Draisaitl, I would have been on his goal total over if he were still unsigned going into this season, contract year, and he's 53 away from 400 for his career. So that added motivation might have seen him kind of grip the stick a little harder down the stretch. He had 55 in 21, 22, 41 last year, like you said. So I could see him potentially getting to 50, but yeah, a lot of these numbers are just too high for me. I mean, there's 3 guys on this list that are pushing 50 goals this season, so can't really do too much with these numbers.
Yeah, and with Draisaitl, the why I would say no to the 49 and a half goals is because you could see him pass to Skinner a lot. So really, I think if you're going to take one, you should really take both because the goal, you don't want to bet the one that doesn't score as much and then have the other one get all the goals on that line. So that might be something you want to look at during the season because you might kind of see a trend. Maybe Draisaitl just kind of sticks as the assist guy, and Skinner racks up the goals, and then you take it during the season, or vice versa. But yeah, it's really difficult to bet any of these on this list.
Yeah, and then with going back there with Hyman,
Oh, sorry,
that
sorry.
54 almost seems like an outlier for him. So I don't know
Yeah,
if I would touch that 43 and a half at all.
and then Nugent Hopkins is interesting because they only had his point total. They didn't have his goal total. They just had his point total,
Yeah.
which is interesting. But finally, player future bets, and then Skinner wins. Of course, I couldn't fit him on that last page because there was too many other player bets. Skinner, 36 wins in 59 games played last year, 29 wins in 50 games played the season before. So his win total is at 35 and a half. And he hit that last year, but 36 wins is a lot to ask from a goaltender. And I get it. He's on a very strong team, and that's why they're favored to win the Stanley Cup. But I couldn't bet that win total, not with a guy like Stuart Skinner. That's more of something I would look at with Shesterkin or something like that. I can't get to it here. The other bets, McDavid, Art Ross is minus 145, which is I guess kind of expected, but um, no. Really, the one on this list I would look at though is Bouchard to win the Norris at plus 700. I think there's definitely value there. Of course, his other defenseman he's got to go up against for that, but you're looking at if he's on the obviously on the top power play, but even when he's not on the top power play, uh, if he's not playing on the top with the top line, he could be playing with the second line So it's just he's going to rack up the points. So for me, Bouchard Norris, that would be something I would look at here for the Oilers. Matt, what do you think about the final bets we have on this list?
Yeah, Skinner should at least get the volume needed to get to that 35.5, but I just don't know if I can touch that. Bouchard Norris, I've actually found plus 800 on his future. Looking back at the last 5 Norris winners, they've all kind of been right around a point per game offensively, 50 plus assists, double digit goals. I think Bouchard's well within that conversation. And then McDavid, Art Ross, the minus 145 is actually a pretty good price. I saw minus 180, I think, yesterday. I don't know if it's changed since then, but he lost to Kucherov last year for that award by 12 points. Both guys had 100 assists. So I guess if McDavid's going to be as consistent as he has been, I could see maybe Art Ross in the future, but my only reasoning towards that future is the price being cheaper than what I've seen. And then just to touch on Skinner there as well, I've seen his Vezina at 50 to 1 or plus 5,000. He had decent stats last year. Vezina winners usually average about 920 save percentage, around a goals against of 2, 30 plus wins. Skinner last year had 905, 262, and 36. So he could be in that conversation as well if the Oilers come out just guns blazing here.
All right. Yeah, I think the defense in front of him, I'm not like the top defensive pair is great, but I
Yeah.
have questions about the second and third D pair. So if those guys do struggle a bit, I think this Oilers team is going to be a great over team. Now the issue here is I think we're going to see sevens. I think we're going to see sevens with this Oilers team. We're not going to get the 6.5s. I think we're going to see a lot of sevens, which is difficult. But if you're
Yeah.
seeing 6.5s at minus 110 with this Oilers team, that's something I would be looking at early on in the season, at least for sure, depending obviously on their opponent. It's not an auto bet or anything. But if you're seeing 6s and 6.5s, I do think this Oilers team is going to be a high scoring team. Matt, anything you want to say before we finish off the show?
No, I think we covered most of it. Thanks for having me on these 2 episodes here this year. Looking forward to coming back again next year and talk some more hockey.
Awesome. Great. Everyone give Matt a follow at Bridge City Bets. His Twitter link is in the description below. Thank you for watching, everyone, and we will see you on the next NHL season preview show. Thanks for watching, guys.